Guys, we are back with some Destiny 2 news and updates today. In the week where the Dawning launched in Destiny 2, or just about launched, it kind of dragged itself into the tower, then collapsed on the floor. Having said that, a lot of the Dawn in 2024 is now working as intended, and we have a handful of updates from Bungie regarding bugs, issues with the event, and fixes that have now gone live, so we'll talk about that stuff. Also, Bungie have a handful of updates regarding Revenant content, another patch that we're going to be getting in the next week. And they talk as well about the roadmap, events that'll be dropping in January. We'll cover some upcoming weapon rewards which haven't been released yet. Plus Bungie start to talk just a little bit about Marathon. I'm not sure if this is a good time to talk about Marathon to the Destiny community, but hey, we're just covering the official updates. So guys, if you enjoyed the video, a rating below helps us out no end. But now let's get into it. First up, it's safe to say the launch of the Dawn in 2024 was incredibly rocky. Literally on the week where I post a meme trailer about how the Dawning is going to be absolutely broken, I thought it was, like I said, just ridiculous enough that despite being harsh, it didn't entirely seem feasible that the Dawning would be entirely busted. But then, of course, when it went live, Bungie initially had forgot to include a cost for the event card upgrade, so players were able to get that free of charge. Bungie's response to that was to disable the event card upgrade, but that also halted progress on triumphs for the event and essentially caused a handful of other bugs. The event card issue is now fixed, and if you manage to nab the rewards for free at the start of the event, you can go ahead and keep them, but Bungie have now said they've identified the underlying issue impacting the price of the event card upgrade, and the issue has been resolved. So players can now purchase it if they like, and earn event card rewards and associated upgrade cosmetics as expected. Following that though, there was also an issue where Dawning weapon focusing wasn't working correctly. To Bungie's credit, they fixed that as well, and they can now correctly have the chance to drop with extra perks in the left and right columns after obtaining the pesky presence and perkier presence upgrades from Evil Avante. But separately, they've said they are investigating issues where players can become stuck during the intro quest for the Dawning. If you're still stuck on that quest ahead of the fix though, they have said, once you've picked up the Dawning oven and questline, collecting required Galadoodle ingredients and giving Zavala his cookie should unblock progress, even if the objective isn't being outlined in the game. So those are the updates from Bungie in terms of how the event went live with so many bugs and glitches. Of course, we've seen our fair share during Revenant, but the Dawning has kind of taken the biscuit, or the cookie, so to speak, in terms of the amount of glitches that are present in the game. Going back to some of the layoffs that Bungie experienced, we know that QA teams, testing teams, were hit very hard during that period of time. And the correlation between that reporting and what we're seeing in the game at the moment, the amount of issues, is incredibly obvious. And it's only serving to further hurt the player base of the game, because it is now significantly affecting quality. It's immensely frustrating. I hope Bungie can get a handle on it, but at this point, they really do have the work cut out for them. And I'm sure we probably won't hear too much on this from before the end of the year, but I think in January, Bungie are going to have to try and outline what they plan to do about this, because there's simply no way that the game can continue on this path for another couple of months. That's all there really is to say about it, if you ask me. Give me your thoughts in the comments section. Another update from Bungie here though, and Osiris and Saint 14 will return this Friday, December 13th with trials. So just a quick reminder about that one, if you fancy diving back in. For the Iron Banner though, D2 on X did confirm Lord Saladin will return with the next Iron Banner on January 14th, 2025. So not too long of a gap really. I believe by that point we're only going to be 2 or 3 weeks away from the end of episode 2. And of course a week before that date is the launch of Act 3 of episode Revenant, so that'll be on the 7th of January. I'd got it into my head that we'd got all of the Revenant themed weapons with the launch of Act 2. I'm not sure where that came from, but there are a couple more. So in Act 3 we'll get the Heretic's Fervor, which is an aggressive frame status rocket launcher. And back in Echoes, of course, these weapons could drop from the Exotic Mission, and then we're generally in the loophole for any of the episode activities, so it's probably going to be a similar thing this time around, given that Act 3 will also see an exotic mission for Revenant. But for this rocket launcher specifically, it can roll Field Prep, Auto-Loading Holster, Rhyme Stealer, and then it has Tracking Module, Lone Wolf, Quick Draw, or Slide Shot in the first trait slot, which can pair up with Chill Clip, Explosive Light, and interestingly, Quick Draw is actually listed again in the second slot. I'm assuming that's an error and it'll be fixed, although we'll have to wait and see. A double Quick Draw rocket is going to be very useful, of course. It can also get Vorpal Weapon, Frenzy, Bipod, and Harmony in the second trade slot. And then there's another stasis weapon, which is the Red Tape. It's a lightweight frame kinetic scout rifle. Interestingly, when Bungie listed out the weapons for Revenant, for Act 1, they had actually said that this weapon would drop, but it isn't in the game yet, as far as I understand it. So this should be for Act 3 as well. And the first trade slot can get Rhyme Stealer, Keep Away, Lone Wolf, closing time, attrition orbs, then there's 4x the charm, or demolitionist, and the second trade slot can roll headstone, explosive payload, high impact reserves, focused fury, and then there's one for all, adrenaline junkie, or rampage. And so it might be a decent weapon there. Otherwise, we will get new artifact perks, the rest of the season pass ranks, and there'll be the exotic mission itself, which we know is called Kel's Fall from seeing the materials on Ido's crafting screen. So I'm certainly looking forward to seeing what that exotic mission will be like. And it drops a pretty interesting weapon. In terms of Bungie talking more about Act 3 though, it isn't guaranteed, but it's possible they'll even mention it in the next couple of weeks in one of the twids, as there will be no further updates immediately before Act 3 goes live, so Bungie will be limited on opportunities to actually speak about this stuff. And that means we might get information relatively soon. So give us your thoughts about that, but on to other updates this week, and DMG said that the Destiny player support team is being rolled into the overall community team. And I know a few weeks back, Drew Tucker from Bungie, one of the player support leads, had said that they were the only remaining player support member at that point in time. And one person managing player support for an entire game doesn't sound great, but given that new role, Senior Technical Community Manager, it's obvious that player support and community management in general is being bucketed into one sort of team now, which does make sense, especially if that workforce is being reduced to some extent, although DMG indicated there would be future opportunities, so it might be a new team that they're looking to build out. Either way, I thought it was worth a quick mention. A couple of extra things to mention: we are getting another update next week, and Bungie have said, with regards to tonic fixes and tuning, the following changes are planned to drop on December 17th. The main goals are to give you far more opportunities to earn the weapons you're chasing with tonics and decrease instances of tonics running out mid-activity. So firstly, legendary tonics will guarantee the associated weapon drops when triggered directly in your loot feed, rather than being shared across multiple episode Revenant drops. So players should see these drops as we defeat enemies or complete general activities through the game. On top of that, base tonic durations are being increased across the board, which can be further increased by lab equipment up to 50% in Act 3, which are accrued through episodic quest progress. So the uncommon tonic duration increases to 40 minutes, that's up from 20, rare tonics go up to 60 minutes, and legendary tonic duration is increased to 80 minutes, up from 60 minutes. So in itself, it's a good set of changes. Additionally though, they say they've got more general bug fixes to help address a small number of tonics that are currently focusing wrong weapons or armor, so even after the ones they fixed for Tomb of Elders, that issue persists, and has actually been affecting other tonics since the start of this update. Plus finally, legendary tonics now affect the chances of obtaining the specific item from the relevant activity, so consuming a tonic of Vantage Point Onslaught will increase the chances of that weapon dropping from Revenant Onslaught chests as well. And so I think those are good changes overall. It's a shame that they're happening now and weren't implemented much earlier on in the episode or even at the start. I think the biggest issue with that is that most players have now kind of done the Revenant stuff that they plan on doing. Of course, it's good to see the changes. You can't knock Bungie for fixing things, but yeah, those changes drop in next week, and hopefully, when it comes to Heresy, there won't be any ridiculously convoluted loot systems. At this point, just make something solid, just make something useful and that actually works, I guess. But I'll keep you posted with those updates next week. Some final things to touch on right here though. Interestingly, we'll actually talk about Marathon momentarily, just because Cosmo, who was previously one of the Destiny community managers, a few weeks back did say a few things regarding Marathon, which may be of interest. So firstly, he did actually indicate he'll be working on both Destiny and Marathon, although I think Marathon is the primary objective now. Plus he additionally confirms they're planning to have a larger reveal of new gameplay next year, which is probably what we were anticipating. We don't know a release date for Marathon yet. 2025 is probably the year that Bungie want to get it out, but we'll have to see if that comes to fruition. Otherwise, he confirmed it is a first-person shooter. I think that has been said previously. And he reiterates it's an extraction shooter, and that there'll be different runner classes that give you some baseline abilities, but there will be a lot of customization options to layer on top with regards to weapons, upgrades, and consumables as a kind of loadout. So not as in-depth as having our own Guardian, for instance, but equally not as limited as being a purely predefined character loadout. And he says it himself, it won't feel like games when you choose a hero and your entire kit is assigned. And he otherwise added it will primarily be a PvP game, but as the game director mentioned, there'll be PvE enemies and elements which always create combat opportunities. It's going to be really interesting to see how Marathon pans out, to see actual gameplay of it as well, because we haven't seen proper gameplay yet whatsoever. And obviously Bungie are entering a competitive space with this genre, but also a genre which is sort of well established and has been around for a while, and arguably is even sort of fatigued to an extent. And as well, it'll be interesting to see if and how the Destiny audience engages with Marathon. So I'll keep you up to date if Bungie have any more to say, as of course 2025 will also be a busy one with regards to Destiny, a changing content model, and sort of a crucial year really for Bungie overall. So my goal is to stick it out and see what happens. If you guys have enjoyed the video for today though, as always, give us any thoughts you have in the comment section, and a rating below really helps us out as well. Plus, if you are new to the channel and you enjoy the content, feel free to hit subscribe and I can keep you posted with more things related to Destiny. Otherwise though, cheers for watching, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.